Hi, this is Natasha Woodard. I'm going to be discussing andragogy, which is the concept of adult learning. When I start looking at this concept, I realize that adult learning can sometimes be shaped by how adults have learned in the past as a child. And that term for learning of the way children learn is called pedagogy. That's a mouthful. But usually children can be groomed or molded into how they need to learn things or what is important for them to learn. And if there are any problems, usually they're identified early on. They usually receive a lot of help as they learn. If there's any extra problems or things that teachers may see, they may provide extra help. But with andragogy, it seems to be a little bit different as far as this type of learning is kind of a self-guided, self-directed learning. So, what is learning as an adult? Um, Plato was one of the first to teach about his experiences learning, and he wanted his learning to be based on virtue and just being a good person. Um, Later, you'll see how this is drawn into some of the concepts that are discussed in this presentation as far as how Plato played a part in kind of like leading the way for how adult learners learn and they um, how they just basically how they motivate themselves to do things and how to be productive and just to learn in general. Alexander Knapp was the original person who coined this term in 1833. Um, Andra, meaning man, and agogos, meaning leading. At the turn of the century, this term was not used as frequently, did not resurface until the 1950s. In 1833, you think about adult learning, a lot of people were not big on so much as education unless you had a position as far as maybe a scientist or some other type of important position. Also, with females, too, they were not pressed upon learning. A lot of females were just homemakers, and a lot of them did not, weren't able to read. And a lot of education for females and a lot of rights for the females did not come around until the 1920s with the women's suffrage movement. Um, he was a German man who he had a lot of the groundbreaking concepts of andragogy, as he felt like that, Plato, he brought into Plato's concepts as far as, Plato being virtuous and for people learning, wanting to learn, wanting to do better. Mr. Malcolm Knowles, he was the person in the 1950s who brought back this concept of self-motivated learning. He was executive director of the Adult Education Association of the United States. Along with his wife Hilda, he wrote many works detailing group work and self-direction. Um, right then, you can see where times were changing and more people were learning and going back to school. And even so, now these days, you will see that there are a lot of adult education programs out there for people who may have started school and who may have started a degree at some point and want to finish, whether it be for a job or whether it be for just wanting to have a better position, make more money. There are a lot of self motivators along with this concept. These are the principles of andragogy. Okay, adult learning, need to know. And this can be different for everybody. What they need to know to learn a new concept or to learn a new skill. What's the foundation? Why do you want to do these things? What type of things are driving this learning process? And that can be different for everyone. How ready are you to do this? Sometimes going back to school later in life takes a lot of dedication and a lot of motivation. As you see in the next circle, a lot of times it takes where people have to give up certain things, and it's a lot of sacrifice going on. And then orientation to the adult learning. What does this adult learning mean to you? How is it different from when you were younger in high school or grade school? How different is it now as an adult? How does this affect the self concept? How does this affect how people think of themselves? Do they have confidence in themselves that they're going to be able to do this? Do they have confidence in what they already know? Or do they have confidence that they're going to be able to complete a degree program or any type of educational program so that they can better themselves? According to Knowles, learners feel a need to learn. Like stated earlier, yes, a lot of learners do need to feel like, okay, I've done all I can do maybe in what I'm in now currently. People sometimes get to feeling stuck and they want to move to a different position or be able to just learn a new skill. There are lots of classes out here now, even for seniors, for instance, who will go out and they can learn how to use the computer, learn Microsoft Office. So those type of options are out there. The learning environment is characterized by mutual respect and trust and acceptance of differences. Everybody's bringing something different to the table as an adult learner. There are a lot of things that people may have been biased about in the past about learning. Maybe people didn't like school at one point, and now they're accepting of others as together they're learning something new, and that's going to have a positive effect on their lives. The learners perceive the goals of the learning experience to be their goals. So everyone has the same goal. Basically, they want to learn something new. The learners share responsibility for planning. They know they're going to have to plan or schedule their lives around what they're doing and what they're planning to do. The learners participate actively as well, where they are taking time to read or taking time to learn new concepts. The learning process also makes use of learners' experiences. Sometimes learning can be the best teacher. For a lot of folks who are going back to school as adult learners, the experience is invaluable that they have had maybe just through life or work experience. The learners have a sense of progress toward goals. Everyone wants to see that they're doing well, that they're making progress, that they're just not at a standstill, that they have taken the time to learn or take an initiative to learn something new, and that they are progressing towards where they want to be in the future. The downside to this and assumptions about this type of learning. Lots of times when they're learning, it's usually for adults, it's a lifetime of learning. Learning never stops. It starts in childhood and I think it stops at death. Lots of times people think that, adult learners, that they're basing everything on their life experiences. And while that may be true, adult learners have their own challenges. Just like children, they're learning disorders. People may not recognize them early on in life, but sometimes when they go back to school, these may resurface and may present a problem with learning as an adult. Lots of adults are not up to date with technology. It scares them. Going from pen and paper to technology and having to learn new things can be kind of scary for some adults. So that can be an issue as well. A motivation to learn. Sometimes people become very complacent in their ways and they don't think about how they need to learn new things and keep up with how things are changing. In nursing, things are always changing. There's always something new to learn. There can be all kinds of distractions, okay? Sometimes people are working overtime. People don't have a quiet place to work at home. They may not think about utilizing a library. It may just be out of the way. There are lots of distractions and lots of enabling situations where people think that they just can't do what needs to be done to be successful in a learning program or an adult learning program. Their obligations as an adult. No longer are you living at home and dependent on mom and dad. There are issues with where you must have to, provide for families. You have obligations to children and different things that need to happen in the home. So all these play a part in why this type of learning can be challenging. Andragogy as it relates to healthcare. They talk about andragogy being compared to how medical students learn. If you know anything about medical students are very motivated to learn. Lots of times they are told by, supervising physicians, just learn it. And this can be hard for a lot of these adults who haven't been maybe in the learning field for quite some time. Vocational education. Lots of times, this is a lot of self-directed learning where you're learning hands-on and how to do things without someone always supervising you. It might just be learning the concept and then, you getting checked off. Learning on your own. My thoughts are different, that every learner is different. Therefore, adult learners are supposed to be self-motivated, but it can be difficult based on some life situations. I know I'm a mother and I have a family, and there's lots of times where I have to wait and do things late at night when kids go to bed and when it's not so noisy or when the house has settled down. Each person may have obligations that take priority over learning experience in their lives. And I try to capture this image or this concept in this image. And I think this is very useful in understanding that even though she is proud to be a nurse and proud of what she has done, but in the back of her mind, she is still someone else. So she's playing many different roles here. These are my references for the different concepts and references I made to Plato and to Mr. Knowles as well as Mr. Cap. Thank you very much for watching.